Hello and welcome for the first time in 2024 to the CHGO Red Stars Podcast. I'm Alex Campbell. If you are a frequent CHGO listener, watcher, you probably know me from the CHGO Fire Show. So for those of you who are in that category, welcome. Glad to have you here. If you are new to CHGO as a watcher or listener, we are very glad to have you. And I'm very glad to have beside me a man who knows the Red Stars inside and out. I think I called you a former honorary Red Star emeritus when I announced that you were going to be the co-host for today's show. If you're on Twitter anywhere near women's soccer, especially Chicago, you have undoubtedly liked several of this man's tweets. Connor Moore, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Oh, man, appreciate you having me. You're too kind with that intro, let me tell you that right now. But no, I'm super stoked to be here. You know, I've always wanted to. I won't even lie. I've been a big fan of the work you guys do here. I'm super stoked to be here. So when you invited me to come on, I didn't think twice about it. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, feelings very mutual from this side over here as well.
Yeah, shout out Lawrence behind the scenes helping us out here as always. We've got a lot to get to here today. We've got 30 minutes. We've got a lot to cover. So Connor, let's dive right into it.
Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, we got to start by talking about the ridiculous offseason that the Chicago Red Stars just had. And it started with a whole lot of, this doesn't feel so great, with players leaving. Aaron Wright, Casey Kruger, Yuki Nagasato, Tierna Davidson, Ella Stevens, Bianca St. George, Kayla Sharples. If you're watching on YouTube, you could see the game counts that those players played. Aaron Wright, Gilly, due to her Gilland, her maiden name, 152 games for the club. Casey Kruger, this is the one that surprised me that she had so many, 110. Yuki Nagasato, 92. Just an absolutely ridiculous amount of experience that was lost. They all go to other NWSL teams. Connor, as all these players went out the door this year, which one hit you the hardest? Which one felt like the biggest loss?
Oh, man. I mean, it's hard to go by like kind of the OGs of the team, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you lose Aaron, you lose Casey, you know, being here, you know, right from the start, it feels like, and it felt like they were like immortals. You know, they would retire and be Red Stars forever. But I mean, it at the same time, you know, it's great to see them go to places where they can thrive. I mean, Aaron, who would have ever thought at any point that she got to go back home, you know, to her home, not necessarily like her hometown team. I mean, I guess it is, but they're a relatively new team now, right?
Yeah, she's from Kentucky. The moment Kentucky got an NWSL team, she's like the legend of Kentucky women's soccer. Exactly. It's not like a blue blood soccer program. She's one of the big success stories from there. So yeah, the moment Louisville got a women's team, it was like, okay, Aaron's probably going to go back home, so to speak, at some point.
Exactly. And I mean, you look at the rest of the list, right? You know, you have Kayla, you have Casey, BSG. It's just, I mean, that's a lot of defense that's gone. And I remember seeing all the talk on Twitter and online, and I will openly admit that I was kind of one of those like, what's going on? But I mean, it's a new era. It very much is a new era, and you had to, in very Chicago fashion, you have to kind of like burn it down to start anew. And I mean, there's a lot of faces that will forever be, you know, synonymous with Red Stars history forever. You know, Yuki, Aaron, like we mentioned, Casey, Kayla. You know, again, another hometown kid.
Shout out Naperville.
Goes out to the Bay, right? Tierna, you know, I remember I was there in that draft when they took her #1 overall. I remember being there. Ella, who was like became a friend of mine when I worked there for the team. Like that one was the one where I just go, man, like, all the homies are leaving. This sucks, but I'm super stoked for all of them. I mean, they go to places where they're going to contribute if they haven't already. And
ESG with a brace on opening weekend.
Exactly. So this is it sucks if you're a longtime Red Stars fan, absolutely. But again, I mean, these hard decisions have to be done, and it's you can't ask for anything better than to send them where they want to be or have them go to be where they want to be. And I mean, this really started with Sarah Gordon being traded to LA last year.
And last year's just avalanche of Morgan Gautrat, Vanessa DiBernardo, Danny Colaprico, those 3 more there who felt like originals. Wanted to pause for a moment on Casey Kruger, though, as well, because it's pretty clear Casey's goal for these next 2 months, she's trying to make that Olympic team.
As she should.
And she's trying to make an 18-player roster when she did not make the 23-player roster that went to the World Cup last year. And, you know, her advantage is her versatility, center back, right back, left back.
Yep.
But to your point, things were feeling not so great around the turn of the year. You know, you had new ownership that had promised all this money. Mal Swanson was still an unsigned free agent. Yeah. It's like, where is the money? Where's it going to go? Then the good news started rolling in just hilariously quickly.
Oh, did it?
I think, you know, what is the thing? The night is darkest before the dawn, or whatever that Batman quote is. Yeah. Then a whole bunch of new players got signed in the span of about a week. Sam Staub from the Washington Spirit, NWSL Best 11 defender. Maximilian Rahl, multiple-time Bundesliga champion with Bayern Munich. Natalia Kuika, multiple-time NWSL champion with Portland. Shea Groom, veteran from Houston. Nadia Gomes, who's an amazing story that we'll get more into here in a minute if we have time. Sydney Schneider, the second goalkeeper for the Jamaican national team, which would make a whole lot more sense in context. And then all the draftees, headlined by Florida State's Leilani Nesbitt, who got taken, I want to say 8th overall, but I might not be quite right on the number. It was in the top 10. She was the Red Stars' first pick, coming off just a trophy-laden career down in Tallahassee. Obviously, these kind of came like a fire hose of one big thing of excitement, but which name turned your head the most when you saw that they were signing with the Red Stars?
Oh, Sam Staub. I mean, again, that's someone that I was shocked that Washington even traded her, let alone had her on the market, right? Like, that was a name that I think caught everybody off guard. So when you first saw the words Washington Spirit trade Sam Staub, you're just like, what? Like, that was my initial reaction. And then when I saw, I was like, to Chicago, like, instantly I just go, there's no shot. There's no shot. But you saw right away that Lauren Donaldson, like, if there is anything he was going to make sure is that this team has a bunch of dogs on this team, man. Like, they are, like, regardless of what the standings say, which I have a bone to pick with everyone who said that, but I'll get there eventually. But I'll get there. But regardless of what the standings say, like, regardless of what they think, this team was going to fight for every single second of all those 90 minutes plus whatever stoppage time you get. And what better to start it off with an Iron Woman defender in Sam Staub. You have one heck of a draft, actually. You go get Kuika again from Portland. I mean, right away, like, for everyone that left, it was the doom and gloom lasted for not that long before you realize, all right, we see the vision now.
Yeah, we can see this.
And this is a vision where you just know, like, you're in for a dogfight every single game when you pull up to see Geek Arena or when the Red Stars pull up in your town. And that is amazing, knowing the type of style that Donaldson likes to run, knowing how the Jamaican national team plays. You bring that to a city like Chicago, a city where they already will adore you if you're ready to fight and scratch and claw like that. Oh, this Red Stars team could not be any more of a perfect embodiment of the culture of Chicago if they'd even tried. So this is exactly the right step forward that they should have taken.
Yeah, when you look at just the collection of players now, when you look at Staub and Groom, Carrie Riccaro, who's already here, Julia Bianchi, Brazilian international, Alyssa Nair, just generally as a person. Leilani Nesbitt, man, she has been talking. We haven't seen her play yet, but preseason she was talking all sorts of smack to the entire damn league, and I love that.
I love it. Put the league on notice. Let them know you're not going to be a pushover, both as a rookie and just a member of this team. I mean, again, like, there's a lot of people that don't think this team could do anything right now. I mean, there is some post by some account that had them in the ranking of, like, won't nowhere near the playoffs. First of all, if you've watched the NWSL, there's literally no such thing.
Gotham worst to first last year.
Quite literally. Like, you took it right out of my mouth. You take a team that everyone was like, there's not a shot, and now they're the defending champions and have a God squad. Like, there is no one fully out of this league. And Put the league on notice right there. Have that chip on your shoulder. Let them know you're not going to be a pushover. I love it. I was right. As soon as I saw the quotes, I was like, all right, like this team's going to be fun. And this is what I want to see. Like, don't let this team, don't let this league, don't let the fans know that you're going to be pushovers and you're fine with kind of settling in the bottom of the table. Go out there and take what's yours.
Absolutely. And we've mentioned his name a couple times. We got to get through the staff hires here for the Red Stars because team president Karen Lietzau brought in U.S. Soccer. She hires GM Richard Fayes. He comes in from Servette, whoever, like the team in Switzerland in women's soccer. He's been with them since 2017, built them into a powerhouse. Yesterday, it was just announced that Chief Marketing Officer from U.S. Soccer, Kay Bradley, is being brought over by Lietzau in the same role. I know Connor and I both feel strongly about the lack of marketing of this team in recent years, so that seems sure to change in a hurry. But the big name, Lauren Donaldson, formerly of the Jamaica women's national team, with whom he got out of the group stage at the World Cup, a thing no one expected them to do. They had the best defensive record in the entire tournament, I believe conceding 1 goal from open play in 4 games. Impossible to break down. You talked about that style we could have expected. Donaldson was my personal top choice when this offseason began.
Same.
I know, you're a big fan of him as well. We've got nothing but good things to say about Lauren Donaldson. I think both of us thought this was a 10 out of 10 hire.
Absolutely, and I have to commend Laura Ricketts right from the jump. You know, from when she purchased the control of the team. Again, it comes down to vision, and you can clearly tell what the vision is going to be. You know, you bring over a CMO from the national team from
great timing by Ricketts, because it's one of those things with 2 U.S. soccer execs. Everybody who works for that company, we're just told they have to move to Atlanta in 2 years. Yeah. And you know what? Maybe not everybody wants to move to Atlanta. And Atlanta's a great city. Yeah. Nothing against Atlanta, but for family or personal reasons, maybe even the executives are like, I think I kind of want to stay here. And Karen Lietzau and Kay Bradley have found a way to not have to leave Chicago by working for the Red Stars.
Absolutely. And you're getting people who know what it takes to market top-tier players, top-tier talent, and a top-tier...
The best women's team in the world.
Right. The best women's team in the world, and not just in specific markets, the world.
The world.
And you bring that into a global city like Chicago, and you outline all these... This team is set up for success, a sustained run of success as the years go on. The more you have these staff hires, the more they bring in free agents, and obviously with free agency and the new CBA in the last few years, this matters. This matters absolutely, not just now, but later down in the year when you're trying to attract high-name free agents or maybe even to acquire them in trades. The long game that they're playing, I know that a lot of them were trying to preach patience, which I get and I understand, and I think we should, and I think to an extent we can't get too ahead of ourselves, but you would be foolish not to see how this is going to play out in potentially the near future. This is a stroke of genius by Ricketts.
Got in at the right time, too. If you've been watching NWSL News in the last week, San Diego Wave just got valued at $110 million. Yeah, man. Angel City is up for sale. The Seattle Reign just sold for, I think, 53 or 63 mil. So the 35 plus 25 promised investment that Ricketts put in for a team in Chicago, if she can engineer a winner here, this team's going to be worth triple what she paid for it quickly. Also want to note before we move on, a nice bit of synergy here. Karen Lietzau was the head legal officer for U.S. Soccer. Among her recent activities there was that she oversaw the U.S. Soccer Federation's independent investigation into abuse and sexual misconduct into women's soccer. There is something a little bit, I don't know if poetic is the right word, but there is something a bit karmic about the fact that that's the type of person who comes in after what the Red Stars players, what the organization, and what the fans have been put through for the last 2 or 3 years. So if you want to just talk about things being different, just like in so many ways, I think bringing in a person with that background really emphasizes it. So the Red Stars did all these things, but then we had to wait and see. Is it going to work? What's the team going to look like? Well, we'll talk about that in a moment after a word from our friends at Coors Light. Coors Light is always your best option when you're just trying to chill, whether your team is stressing you out. Chicago sports fans, boy, do we know what that feels like. Or just,
yeah, we do.
Maybe life in general is stressing you out. Things can feel chaotic, and Coors Light can help you find moments to chill, whether you're out at a game, whether it be a Fire game, Red Stars game, home opener this weekend, crack open a Coors Light in the parking lot. There's a tailgate that begins at 1 p.m. You should absolutely try to go there, and Coors Light can help you chill before the game, can also help you chill on the couch, maybe just watching an afternoon of soccer after a long and busy week. Whenever you feel you need to chill most, Coors Light is there to help you do it. When the mountains of Coors Light turn blue, it is as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When it's time to chill, choose Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. When it's time to chill, Coors Light is the beer we at CHGO reach for. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Goal. That's CoorsLight.com/CHGO Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Utah Royals 0, Chicago Red Stars 2. The Red Stars are back.
Back in business, baby.
Back in business.
We're so back.
Funnily enough, when the Royals were established as an NWSL franchise in 2017, they also played their first game at home against the Red Stars. So some nice parallels here. This was fun, and of course, though, the biggest story. After, I believe she put on her Instagram 343 days without competitive minutes, Mal Swanson back playing in a soccer game.
Oh my goodness. I mean, as a fan, as someone, who worked with her for a little bit, I mean, oh my goodness. You can't ask for a better re-debut, re-emergence. It was a bad injury. You were really worried about if that type of injury would take away from Mal's style of play. Mm-hmm. She answered that very, very quickly, and the answer is, I'm back. And I mean, I made a lot of jokes about it on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. About pray for the league, she's back, she's putting the league on notice. But honestly, I don't think that's hyperbole.
No, not at all.
A Mallory Swanson, 100%, is an MVP candidate, just
flat out,
just hands down.
Mm-hmm.
You can't argue that. I mean, the way she takes over a game, and again, to have your one of your star players, one, locked up under contract for a while and be healthy and ready to go. First game, new era. And I'm sure it felt very poetic for her because it was close to the area of the country where she's from. Oh my goodness, you can't ask for a better return from Mal. I mean, I'm sure she wanted to score a goal, but I got a prediction for that for the home opener. I'll get to that if we get time. But man, it's just so great to see her back. It's great for her. It's great for the Red Stars. It's great for women's soccer. When Mallory Swanson is playing when Mallory Swanson is playing on a soccer pitch, you're guaranteed a show, and it's just best. It's just what's best for business and what's good for the game.
Her social handles are still Malpew, so I think you can be a little bit forgiven for saying that, even though if the name has changed, it is still at Malpew on whatever platform you are following her on. Yeah, she had a really scary injury recovery. We didn't know about this until a recent interview she did on the Women's Game Men in Blazers podcast with former national team teammate Sam Mewis. Her first surgery, there was a concern about sepsis, which when that happens, there's some scary things that can happen. So she needed a second surgery. She was on IV antibiotics for weeks. So why you didn't hear anything, but you can see she posted a picture of her parents who made the drive from suburban Denver, where they live, and Dansby Swanson. If you're a Cubs fan, you're quite familiar with his work. Her husband being there, and just the smiles on all of their faces, the happiness, the relief was amazing to see. So are the Red Stars. They win this game 2-0. An interesting first lineup from Lauren Donaldson. No Shea Groom mentioned anywhere.
No.
Not on the bench and not in the injury report, so we'll have to wait and see this week what that's all about. 4 forwards, basically a 4-2-4 formation. Swanson, Gomes, Schlegel, Hocking all start. And maybe the biggest shakeup, Tatum Milazzo, healthy scratch, was on the bench for this game. Taylor Mollum, in her second season, gets the go at left fullback. Maxi Rawl, as expected, starts at right back. Kuika partners Staub. Build up to this game, Connor. You see that team sheet come out. What was your reaction to the group that Lauren decided to throw out here for match day 1?
I think it was a little bit of oh, okay. That's interesting. Some of the names, as you mentioned, Shea Groom, not on the team sheet at all. And then Tatum Milazzo on the bench. But I think that could potentially turn into a good luxury where you have names where you're just wait, how are they not starting or not on the team sheet? And they're not named, and you have the ability, you see what they're able to do in that game clearly, and obviously it's just one game, But it was very interesting. I was very much one of the people online. I was just like, okay, like this is a new era.
This is a list of names. This is a list of soccer players.
Right. I was very much just like, this is a new era. This. We'll see. But overall, I mean, the end result was, you can't ask for anything better. But it was definitely an interesting beginning when you saw the team name. I think you could be forgiven if right away you just go, wait, what?
I mean, that was kind of my reaction, trying to figure it out. And as somebody who's a soccer nerd, I was so glad that as this game began to unfold, a Chicago soccer team, particularly the Red Stars, doing something tactically interesting. It is not something, especially if you're a Red Stars fan, that you've had a whole lot to think about in the last, well, basically forever, but especially recently. It was a full-on, it was a 4-4-2 out of possession with Mallory Swanson at times dropping in at left mid in the midfield band of four.
Yep.
But those 4 forwards rotating constantly. Swanson flipped sides. Gomes at times was up top, at times was wide. And then in possession, Penelope Hocking tucked in as a third center mid, and it turned into more of a 4-3-3 with Rawl, and this paid off later, just bombing forward down that right sideline. Every single time the Red Stars had the ball, you could see why they signed her up. First half, shout out to Penelope Hocking in particular. She came to play. Speaking of people who've got that dog and who are going to just fight you no matter how the game goes. Utah mostly controlled possession, 0-0 at halftime. And all I could say, Connor, about that first 45 minutes is that was certainly 2 basically brand new soccer teams.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you have one team that's trying to learn how to really play together. I mean, granted, you have preseason, but it's preseason. You can only get so much work in. And then the Red Stars, again, it's a complete line shift from everything that the Red Stars know, from tactically, from personnel-wise, everything. I mean, so it was very much 2 teams not only feeling each other out, but trying to also get a lay of the land of like, all right, like everything that we've already worked for and worked up to this point, how does this translate when the games are for real, when the lights are on? So I wasn't too upset. I wasn't too worried. It was a very competitive first half. If anything, I went into the second half feeling very confident. I was like, I could see what's happening here.
This game's
I like
winnable.
what I'm seeing. Exactly. It was a very winnable game. And I mean, as we know at the end result, that's what happened. But they played themselves into a chance to where it could be a winnable game. You never at one point, at least for me, thought that, oh, this one might get away from us. They were right there the entire time.
Absolutely. Red Stars was another thing that Chicago soccer fans I know have craved for years. Halftime adjustments clearly were made. They start the second half very, very well. And Nadia Gomes almost scores a storybook goal 3 minutes in. Mal gets to the end line, cuts it back. And for those who aren't familiar with Nadia's story, she was drafted by Orlando, played a little bit of pro ball, got called up to the Portuguese national team. She's Portuguese-American, and then ended up out of the league for a few years, away from soccer, had a son, prioritized him and that in her personal life. And then last year showed up in the USLW League with San Francisco Glens, a team I had never heard of until the Red Stars signed her, and I read up on what she'd been up to, where she led all of women's amateur soccer in America last year in goals, something like 16 and 14, just killed it, got a non-roster invite with the Red Stars, makes the team, starts the opener. I mean, that's a lot of faith being placed in her, and she was inches away. I mean, I think as a striker, she'll want that one back from really just having a moment that I think would have maybe left everybody in tears on the team. So maybe it's good for composure that one goes wide.
Maybe, but it also would have been the ultimate vindication in your first game in the pro level, arguably the top league in the country, potentially a top 2, top 3 league in the world, and you announce your return in that fashion after everything that you've gone through. I think it would have been very poetic. It would have been very cathartic as well, too. But, I mean, the fact that she was able to have that long of a layoff and to play that big of an impact in her first NWSL game and Lord knows when. I mean, sure, the goal, she'll want it back. I think every striker will want that back, especially with a story like Gomes. But man, way to reintroduce yourself to the NWSL. So hats off to her, man.
Yeah. Luckily for the Red Stars, they didn't have to wait long for the goal to come. It came 2 minutes later. Ali Schlegel and her pink bandana get the Red Stars' first goal of 2024. A great delivery by Sam Staub, showing you what she provides in possession, in addition to her defensive skills. The celebration, and Connor, you mentioned that there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of player change. But even I think the new players who are coming into this team, I think they understand because of, the wider reckoning we saw in the NWSL over the last few years. Yeah. They can empathize with what the players who've been around went through personally, emotionally, and the celebration on that goal, particularly Mallory Swanson just yelling at the top of her lungs to nobody in particular, but just screaming in joy. That moment, Schlegel flicks that ball in. That's more than just a goal for this team.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to start off this new era, this new generation of the Chicago Red Stars, and essentially what's really a new era of the NWSL. To start it off that way, as you mentioned, everything that they were doing so far in that first half and even up to halftime, up to that point, was very, as you mentioned, if you're a Red Stars fan, kind of anti-Red Stars. They're just like, halftime adjustments? What is that? Like a team that's
pressing like crazy?
What is that? So when I saw it too, like even I was going crazy in my room at that point. I was just like, this
is a team.
This is a team. I was doing that like, oh, we're we're back, baby. But you can't help but feel like this is like that was the certified start of this new beginning. Mm-hmm. And again, the players felt it. I don't know. Just the vibes on that one was just like the word of the day. I think for it would have been cathartic.
Yeah, there was certainly some catharsis. We saw more of that. Something that didn't change. There's lots of changes to this Red Stars team. A constant team captain, Alyssa Naeher, 54th minute. It looks like Utah is about to immediately equalize as Bedford gets in one-on-one. Naeher comes out and makes the save. 4 minutes later, she denies Bedford from point-blank range. Talk about a striker wanting goals back. I don't know what Bedford's personal XG was in this game, but it was a lot, and Alyssa Naeher just wasn't having it.
Rest in peace to Akira Toriyama, the founder of Dragon Ball, because Alyssa straight up went Super Saiyan God mode on this one, man. I mean, come on. I mean, we saw what she did at the Gold Cup, and she's just picking up right where she left off. Like, any form of worry of, is she drained? It's such a short turnaround.
Nope.
Put to rest right away. She's like, nope, she's just in mid-season form, which, if you're the Red Stars, beautiful to know.
Especially if you're a team that wants, Donaldson wants to play a bit of a more defensive style, but we saw the defenders, and on that Bedford one-on-one, she got in behind the center backs. With so many new players, there are going to be communication lapses.
Yeah.
And this game was just like, hey, if things aren't going quite well, Alyssa's just going to bail us out, and you don't want to do that all season, but for a team still finding itself, having a goalkeeper on top form makes up for a lot of things. It looks like the Red Stars are up 2-0 in the 75th as Maxi Rawl hits the crossbar on one of those bombing runs of hers. She has another one 2 minutes later, and it's what produces the second goal. 2-0, 77th minute. Just some great possession soccer. Again, after years of, really a year and a half, but still, it felt like forever of hit ball long, hope Mal gets it, and then see if anything good happens. Yeah. This was just some wonderful possession play. Eventually, Rawl is making a run into the box on the attack. It looks like the chance is going to go because Allie Cook, in her professional debut, she's been on the field 5 minutes. She's 2 yards from goal, full-on swing and a miss. Just right foot goes right past the ball. Luckily, though, she accidentally backheels it with her left foot straight to Ava Cook. No relation. That's important. And Ava kind of bundles it home. It goes in. Two things. Awesome to see the Red Stars score there and take advantage, put the game away at 2-0. That's going to be confusing as hell all season long. The jokes are already being written. Just that having an Allie and an Ava Cook on the team, they were playing up top together at this point in the game. So just commentator's nightmare, but a really fun goal. And while that first goal felt more cathartic, the second goal celebration, that felt more celebratory. That felt more, all right, we're here. We're going to win this game. It shifted to everybody exhale to, let's go. We've got this.
Oh, goodness. You know what? That was probably the best way to describe this, right? As you mentioned. The first one was just like, the new era is here. Oh, my God. We got the first one out of the way. Now the second one was, as you mentioned, puts the game away.
Because Utah was offering at this point very little. We're going to talk about how that changes late. But after those first two Naeher saves, they looked deflated.
Yeah, and you want a team that goes in and just steps on necks. And that was a celebration and a goal where you're just like, okay, let's wrap this up. Let's get back home to Chicago with 3 points on hand. We're not leaving anything to chance. We're not going to go with this, screw it, Mal down there somewhere. Mm-hmm. Let's hope for the best. Everyone is in. Everyone is contributing. Everyone is playing a role in this. Not to say that in previous iterations of the Red Stars they weren't, but this looked like a team to me that's just like when they see blood in the water,
they're going to go.
You're going to go. Like, don't dilly-dally around. Go end it and go take it right away. And that right there, a goal by Ava, the homie, by the way. Shout out, Ava. I appreciate you.
Shout out to also any Michigan State fans watching.
She's a Michigan State. That's right. Hurts me as an Illini fan. But no, this was the best start to possibly have for the Red Stars. And this is a team that, if you're gonna put this Red Stars team away, you're gonna have to do it early and you're gonna have to do it decisively because they're gonna start nagging at you the entire time.
No, absolutely. And when you think about some players who just looked reborn, Penelope Hocking had a good rookie season. She looks faster. She looks stronger. Allie Schlegel, another player, good rookie season, looks to have leveled up. And Donaldson clearly trusts the kids. I mean, you get new players, whether it's a veteran like Gomes who's new or Allie Cook getting thrown out there. You've got young players being thrown into big moments and being trusted. Taylor Malum plays at left back, was the fringest of squad players. She was a player that I was waiting to hear she was released when the Red Stars were signing new players in the last few weeks, if I'm honest. But clearly she impressed in preseason, starts day one. So Donaldson putting trust in the hunger of these young players. Utah did get one last great chance. If you were with us for the Fire Show, this is a theme of the day. Way too much stoppage time for no good reason. I believe there were 9 minutes also added in this game, just like in the Fire game. And I don't swear often on these shows. I save it for particular moments. But I think we have a particular occasion here where it's required because in the words of Allie Schlegel on the team's social media account right after the game, fucking Alyssa Nair, man, because holy cow. 97th minute, this is a dipping strike from outside the box. She's a couple paces off her line, jumps, reaches back behind her head, tips it over the bar. Woman of the match without question. Shout out to the Chicago social media team, even though they had to bleep the F-bomb, for keeping that Allie Schlegel quote in the edit because
that's an awesome moment.
Because so many people are like, should we?
No, you keep that in.
No, you keep that in. And so thank you to whoever made that executive decision that was going to be how you ended the recap social video for the game, because that's just a legendary moment. Somebody put it on a t-shirt because that was the game. Just effing Alyssa Nair. Just like she is not human right now.
Like I said, Super Saiyan Alyssa. Super Saiyan Alyssa. Like it's that. Alyssa Nair being in mid-season form in game one.
Shout out U.S. Women's National Team, and shout out to all the people, including maybe me at times, who criticized her at the World Cup and said she might be past it and maybe we need to move on. Apparently not.
No, she's not. And shame on anyone for thinking I wasn't. But no, this is Alyssa freaking Nair. Yeah, print the shirts, do what you got to do. But you're going to need a leader like Alyssa Nair to really lead by example. We already hear stories about how great of a leader she is and how she leads an example in the locker room and practice and everything. But especially when it counts, we see it when it counts. But this is such a good sign going forward when one of your biggest leaders,
longest tenured
player on the team, is in this mode this early. Imagine the confidence that gives everybody else.
Especially such a young team. And the fact we don't hear a lot from Alyssa Nair. She's not a big talker. She's, to your point, a very lead by example kind of person. But when you've got a 24-year-old who scored a goal in the game on the sidelines, just in that sort of joy like Allie Schlegel was, and to see everybody running to her, it doesn't matter what any of us on the outside think, because that team, those players look up to her, they believe in her, and they believe in her with good reason. We saw it in this game. Four notable saves, 3 of them just outstanding. Connor, before we get out of here, we've talked a lot about what we learned about this team today, about who some of these players are, their attitude. Any other notes you want to add about what did we learn about the Chicago Red Stars in their first game of the season?
I think togetherness. I think a team that is very much, for a lack of better terms, all in. I think this is a team that believes in the vision that Coach Donaldson and the rest of the organization are trying to put forward. And the first game was the first game, absolutely. There's still a lot left to learn about this team, but you can see this collective new youth movement, this cohesiveness where, they feel like they could take on anybody, and they're going to get their first big test this Saturday. And I think it's in that game where we'll be able to see, like, okay, what are some other lessons that we're really going to see? But if all else fails, we know this is going to be a scrappy, fighting, fun team.
They're going to be fun to watch.
They're going to be so much fun.
You can't promise results. You don't know where they're going to end up in the standings. Playoffs get increasingly hard to make as more teams join the league. But this team isn't going to go down without a fight.
Absolutely
They're going to be fun to watch. And with that note, good segue there, let's take a look at the Red Stars' upcoming schedule, because there's some interesting notes here. And if you're watching on the YouTube audience, of course, you can see Mallory Swanson, like you see her on the screen right now, in person. If you haven't done so, it is quite an experience to watch Mal play soccer. I would highly recommend that. And you could start this Saturday against Seattle. We are both hoping to be there in person. So
we are.
That would be very fun. So fingers crossed, if you see us, say hello, even introduce yourself. Always like to meet more fans.
Please do not make me sign your shirt of mine. I beg of you, do not make me sign the shirt.
But please wear any state champs merch you might have. I think I've got a sticker here in the back of my iPod. Yeah, state champs. If you've got the merch, you know who you are. You should wear that to the game. In addition to that game, after that, the Red Stars Friday, March 29th are at Orlando, a rebuilt team. A game that could be the potential NWSL debut of Barbara Banda, the still somehow only 23-year-old Zambian international striker who has been terrorizing international competition for years at this point.
Unreal.
An NWSL team finally did the thing and paid the Chinese Super League however much money it took to get her out of there.
Yep.
And so now she's going to play for the Orlando Pride. Was not on the team sheet this past week. So again, 2 weeks from now does feel like a possible first start. So Red Stars might get a taste of that. And then Saturday at home against Angel City at the beginning of April. This is a weird one. If you're watching on YouTube, you're not misreading that time. That is an 8:30 p.m. home kickoff.
I gotta be honest. I thought it was at Angel City.
No,
I was like, 8:30.
No, that's what I did too.
Right.
I'm like, okay.
I honestly thought the same thing. I'm like, okay, West Coast time. I get it.
Yeah, I'm like, Google must just have the teams in the wrong order when I'm looking at it. Yeah. So I went in, I'm like, no, I looked at the league's official TV schedule on their website. Also, with all the different places to watch games, just search NWSL TV schedule. The league put together a nice website that lists every game for the entire season and where you can watch it. So that Saturday, first week of April game against Angel City is on ION, which if you have any over-the-air television or subscribe to literally any television service, you have it. You just got to go and find it. It might be a bit of a task, but it's there. So yeah, that's an 8:30 p.m. kickoff to kick off April against Angel City. You might have also noticed those first two games. The next two are on NWSL Plus. Several managers and players this week asked, what is NWSL Plus? Well, if you didn't know, it is the league's free new streaming platform that they tweeted about in January and then didn't mention for 2 months. Maybe they should have marketed it a bit more than that. But anyway, it's free. You can find it through the NWSL website. It basically looks exactly like the Paramount Plus games from the past. Similar deal, but any game that is not on ESPN, ABC, CBS Sports, ION, or Amazon Prime Video, any other game is going to be on NWSL Plus, and full replays of every game are on NWSL Plus. Sounds like the ones that are on actual TV channels are just going to take a couple days to repopulate there, because obviously you can watch them in those locations. Amazon's a Friday night, every night thing, which we got to say, I'm going to single them out in particular because there's been a lot of things said about the quality of NWSL broadcast in recent years. That's the best looking women's soccer ever on American television. It looks like NBC's Sunday Night Football looks. It's crisp, it's full HD, and it's awesome to see that investment. Keep it coming. Also, shout out to ESPN for everything they did around the Kansas City Current opener, 5-4 over Portland this weekend. That was an insane way to start the year, but man, was it awesome to watch. Patrick Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes, part owners of the team in the house. Goals galore, good celebrations from Kansas City as promised. Lots and lots of good stuff there. Thank you to Connor for being here. Really enjoy always talking shop with you about this team. Thank you, everybody, for watching and for listening. And one quick postscript, got to shout out Claire Watkins and Sandra Herrera, the former hosts of this podcast, which in its former iteration was, I guess, the extension, the continuation of Southside Trap, which they built up as the go-to source of Red Stars news, analysis, and information over years. You can check out what they're up to now. They're doing a lot of great work. Claire is at Just Women's Sports, where she hosts the Late Sub podcast. Go check that out, as well as writing about and commenting on women's soccer in particular, but women's sports more broadly. And you can see Sandra Herrera over at CBS Sports. She is on the Attacking Third podcast. She was also just on location for the W Gold Cup for CBS's live on-site coverage of that tournament, which, again, shout out to investment in putting women's soccer and smart people talking about it on television. We love to see it. So got to shout out Sandra and Claire, because without them, this podcast in any form would not exist. But I'm so glad to have the honor to be bringing it back. They are stars.
They are. Love you guys. I mean, you two are great friends and just phenomenal ambassadors to the game and the city of Chicago in general. So props to you two. Keep killing it. Love you guys as friends. You guys are amazing. Keep doing what you do.
Hopefully, maybe we'll get to see him at the Red Stars opener this week.
Absolutely.
And I think there's just always a general fun at the home opener. You get a few former faces, kind of like beat reporters emeritus in various forms, who all turn up and show out for the first game of the year. So that would be fun. Again, we thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're a CHGO Fire fan, a CHGO sports fan more broadly, or you were brand new. So excited that you watched or listened today. We will see you next month for more CHGO Red Stars. For now, I'm Alex Campbell. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and go Red Stars.
We all silly like the mayor.